Children in their classroom were preparing for their Christmas play. This one little boy really wanted to be Joseph, but he lost out on the part, and his rival in the classroom ended up getting that part. One little boy, he ended up being the innkeeper. He was kind of spiteful about that, a little bit resentful, because he wasn't going to play that part to bring Mary there into the inn. So during the rehearsals, he plotted and he thought, well, how am I going to mess this up so I can embarrass that little boy, my rival? And so the night of the play came, and everything was going well, and Mary and Joseph arrived there at the inn and said, we need a room for the night. And the innkeeper, the spiteful one, said not his normal line that he should have said, but instead he went, great, I'll give you the best room in the house. Well, needless to say, the little boy who was playing Joseph was kind of taken a little off base, and he wasn't sure what to do. So there was an awkward silence, and then he thought about it for a moment. He was a pretty sharp young man, and he looked at Mary, the gal playing Mary, and he said, no wife of mine is going to stay in a dump like this. We'll go to the barn, it'll be cleaner there. And everything went as planned. God had a plan, and the beautiful plan that God had was for Joseph to be a part of Jesus' life, for Joseph to be able to engage, to protect, to bring up Jesus. You see, everybody needs a mother and a father, because male and female, it's complementary. In so many ways, there's a beautiful complementarity that takes place in terms of the fact of the qualities that are exhibited, and God knew that. So the Father knew that if Jesus was going to come into the world, he needed someone special for his son. And that's why he chose Joseph. So fathers, when it comes to your being a dad, never be afraid to be the dad that God called you to be. Never be afraid to be able to take that role of teaching your son or your daughter the ability to what it is to be a good Catholic Christian man, to not be embarrassed by that, to be a man who is able to know how to love and nurture, to share joys, but also maybe to shed a tear. I'm sure Joseph had all of those beautiful qualities, because those are qualities that make someone a man. So when God chose Joseph to be the guardian and protector, Joseph had some thoughts already himself. He was like, well, I don't know about this. Mary's pregnant. I could divorce her. And we don't really understand all that in our culture because they were not yet married. There were stages in their marriage. So there was first an engagement where the families got together and said, my son, your daughter, I think they should get married. And it's thought about, and it was prayed about, and it was encouraged. Well, then there was a period of time called a betrothal, and that's where Mary and Joseph were. It was about a year before the actual wedding was to take place. So that's just a little history of the culture there. So Joseph could have gotten out of this relationship, but it would have shamed Mary, because then it would have been like, well, it's obvious that the child was not his. And did she commit adultery? And what would all that mean for her? He didn't want to do that to her. So when he was there thinking, well, maybe I could divorce her quietly, that's a little bit of perhaps a sense of, wow, what are my options here? So Joseph had this dream. Actually, Joseph had some interesting dreams, because remember, after the child was born, the angel appeared again and said, take them to Egypt. Take Mary and the child, and that because they will not survive if they're left here in Israel. So I wonder if Joseph was afraid of his dreams. But God appeared to him and sent the angel and said, no, you need to marry Mary and have a great life together. Joseph never speaks. He's probably a very smart man, I think. He never said anything. He was always quiet. It doesn't mean that he didn't have an influence. It does not mean that he did not have an influence on the child. He taught Jesus how to work in the carpenter shop. He taught Jesus how to be a good person, how to be someone of character, and someone who was obedient, because that's what Joseph exhibits here today, is that gift of being able to say, this is what God wants. This isn't what I want. I thought during this Advent season, so often we say the prayer, the Hail Mary, and the words are, Hail Mary, full of grace. What beautiful words, that Mary was full of grace. I would say Joseph also was pretty filled with God's grace. I wonder if we are. And if we're not full of grace, if that's not something that somebody would say about us, are we at least trying to get rid of that which takes up that space where grace can abide and reside? Joseph knew that through his obedience to God, he would love Mary, he would protect her, and he would even name the child what God suggested. Now, there's not many people that are going to take outside suggestions about what to name their child, but here it was from the prophet from centuries before that he would be named Emmanuel. You might say, well, he messed that one up because they named him Jesus. Well, it means the same thing. It means God is with us. So here God takes on human flesh, and Joseph is a part of that. This is an Annunciation story. When we hear the word Annunciation, we usually only think of the Annunciation to Mary, but this is the Annunciation to Joseph. This is the announcement to Joseph of what God's plan would be and how he would come into this world and be with us. God is not distant. He was not distant from Joseph. He was not distant from Mary. He was not distant from the Israelite people. He's not distant from us today. A father and a son were out playing basketball one day, and the dad was trying to teach his son how to shoot the ball, how to get it in the basket, and obviously dad was quite a bit taller than the son. And so there the dad was getting basket after basket in, and he was trying to get his son to do the same. And he was trying to teach him, no, you got to aim it properly, and you have to be able to stand in the right spot and be able to work quickly and think quickly. And the boy said, well, that's easy for you to say because you're all the way up there and I'm all the way down here. A lot further for me to get that ball in there. Guess what? That's something we can never say about God. We can never say about God, God, you don't understand. You're all the way up there and I'm just down here. No, God became one of us. In these hours before we celebrate the beautiful gift of the Word made flesh, of God becoming incarnate as one of us, what do we need to dream about? What is really on our heart in our Christmas preparations, whether it's been a good Advent, a bad Advent, a prayerful Advent, a busy Advent, a short Advent, no matter what it is, as we go through these next days, what are we waiting for? I can imagine for Joseph it was a long pregnancy, wondering how everything would work out. We also need to be obedient to God, to listen to him, be open to his grace, maybe to think that it's not only our selfish dreams that we want to come true, but it is the dreams of God. And when we do that with the help of Saint Joseph, we will truly know that God is with us.